that we are going to discuss a little internet beef with Cam'ron and Mase and hip hop journalist Elliot Wilson. Elliot Wilson is also a guy who has unmuted to go after Drake. And then after the Drake crazies came for his rack, he decided to bend the knee and try to make peace with Drake. Wasn't a fan of that, bro. You should have just stuck to your guns on that. But what are you going to do when you're dealing with a mob? And Drake fans at this point have become a mob.
You're a mob.
But what we have now is a back and forth between Elliot Wilson. Elliot Wilson, he's a longtime hip hop journalist, and he feels some type of way about where hip hop journalism and content creating, where it's gone, because he looks at himself as like a traditionally trained journalist, and he went to school for it, and he's been doing it for years and decades. And he doesn't like the fact that you have these people like Cam'ron and Mase who have no journalistic experience, no journalistic credentials or education. They're just kind of coming into the space and making content, and they're encroaching on people like Elliot Wilson's territory, despite the fact that, according to Wilson, they haven't put the work in that he's put in. So Wilson is a part of this old school journalistic mentality where he feels some kind of way about proprietors of new media, and he used Cam'ron and Mase as an example of this. And Cam'ron and Mase didn't like it, and they retorted, and they responded in the only way that they know how. So so this says Cam'ron and Mase go off on Elliot Wilson amid his criticism of their show. Only 2 days into the new year, and a new beef has emerged between Cam'ron, Mase, and Elliot Wilson. During a recent episode of the new Rory and Mal podcast, the veteran hip-hop journalist shared his 2 cents on artists becoming media personalities, specifically the 2 aforementioned rappers' sports show, It Is What It Is. Everybody is media. Cam'ron's running around like he's Stephen A. Smith. It's what we're dealing with, Wilson stated. Why is he a sports journalist? Because he has an opinion. He's got Mase having a good job because the bag is there. This is the stuff I do well, and now everybody wants to do it. I don't like it. After hearing of his criticism, Cam and Mase responded on the show's official Instagram. So I'm going to skip all of this because we're just going to play the sound. Mm-hmm. So first, what I'm going to do is I'm going to play what Elliot Wilson said. And then I'm gonna play Cam and Mase's response.
So let's do it like this. Let's do it like this for this clip, because who knows, right? So let's play the audio, but not show the video. I think that'll be pretty clean.
How do I do that?
Just scroll up.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Okay. All right, so here we go. So here is Elliot Wilson's take on these new media and Cam'ron and Mase, and he doesn't like it.
This guy.
Cam'ron's running like he's Stephen A. Smith. That's what people be mad at you about when you say shit like that.
Which I think he should lean into. Be the old villain.
OD, that was hate.
Why is this for a journalist? Because he has an opinion? Why? This is the shit I do well, and not everybody want to do it. I don't like that shit. And I'd be a hater.
You don't like it because you don't think they're good at it?
I know I'm better at it. Okay. It's me. It's my life.
Who are you to say I'm better at this than them?
They're not better. Like, that shit cringeworthy. I watch that shit. It's not good.
Yo,
shit ain't popping.
It
ain't popping.
I don't agree.
What's the Cam'ron interview? He was like, yo, Cam'ron really asked the question. What are you talking about? No.
Mo and I aren't journalists. We're still in hip-hop media. You are a hip-hop journalist. What interview did Cam take away from us?
Celebrity has access to different things that I may not have. And again, I feel like they underperform.
We made podcasting popping. Then Rap Radar podcast game, and you took God knows how many interviews from us.
All right, so that was that exchange, and so here's Cam and Mase's response to this.
I'm gonna give a shout out to Brandon Marshall, Kevin Garnett, Matt Barnes, Dan Labatar, Nick on First Things First, especially Stephen A. Smith, Gillian Wallow, and Gilbert Arenas. I named them 3 last because they gave me a murder some game about this business before we got into the business. The rest of you bitch ass niggas, I'm telling you right now, we here. Y'all can make your motherfucking phone calls. You can think what I'm saying ain't true. I'm telling you now.
We the new source.
We the new source. Murder, stat, and killer are the new source. Y'all niggas scared and y'all moving funny. Ready? We camera ready. First of all, murder made the slogan. We do it like we do it for TV.
Yeah.
All y'all analysts and niggas that's pissed off, we gonna make you real mad now because niggas gonna start hitting me with the information. I'm gonna make sure I call my friends up. And shout out to Draymond Green too, because I called Draymond early.
It's Summer League. We gonna be there every game.
Yeah. Football season, we back 4 days a week, and you know what time it is when it comes to basketball. We on your ass, pause, and if you mad, you gonna get madder. Fuck you, bitch ass niggas. Next episode of It Is What It Is.
All right. So yeah, they're not having it. They're not having it, man. And you know, apparently, Elliot Wilson, tongue in cheek, tried to squash it, and Cam and Mase wasn't here for it. So well, we won't. Yeah. So yeah, Elliot Wilson like tried to say, "All right, y'all got it, man. It's all good." And Cam and Mase was like, "Nah, it ain't over." Cam was like, "Nah, it ain't over. You ain't gonna try to kill this just because we ain't finna kill it just because you said peace. You wanted the smoke, and now you gonna get it." So you know, what do you make of you know, does Elliot Wilson? Are you with Elliot Wilson? You with Cam and Mase on this?
Come on, man. Kind of question is that, man? I'm clearly with Cam and Mase with this. Elliot Wilson, man, this is a guy where, you know, he always comes out and talks about things, you know, and I'm always said this about this guy. You know, it's like, you know, who the hell are you? You know, what skin do you have in the game besides, you know, being cool with A&Rs and cool with labels and being that old guard of journalism when it came to reporting what the people needed to hear. And he played that. So he was the guy that was, you know, in political relationships with these labels. And then he would give his takes based upon his relationships. It wasn't really anything authentic about this dude, this Wilson guy. So every time that he was talking about something, I would hear what he'll say about this, hear what he say about that. But for the most part, his opinion always, to me, was not valued. Just keeping it 100. And so I understand his frustration when it comes to, you know, how hard he had to work to get where he had to be, you know. Now, I don't know if he did any Joy Taylor stuff, but the point he had to work hard to get where he had to get. And so he doesn't like the fact that the game right now, first of all, just being out here, the game is oversaturated. But then the game he's in, at least, is being oversaturated in the sense that there's people that were former artists or former athletes or whoever that are out here with the pull, the name recognition and stuff like that to actually get the people's attention. And so he's realizing that his credibility and other things, it doesn't hold as much weight anymore as it once did because of the new forms of media out here. But my thing is if he was always an authentic person, if he was always somebody that the people respected and valued, that yes, even though the game is being oversaturated right now, his voice wouldn't be getting drowned out. And his voice is getting drowned out because he never really had a strong one to begin with. So for Cam and Mase to sit there and windmill and dunk on him, I agree. And when they was shouting out all the people that gave him advice, just showed him ways of the game and just, you know, basically embraced him. You know, those are people that don't have fear of somebody like Cam and Mase getting to the game. You know, I heard him mention Dan Le Batard. Now, why would Dan Le Batard not be afraid of Cam and Mase? I mean, they're sitting there talking about sports. But, you know, Le Batard's in a situation where he has his brand. He does sports the way he covers it the way he covers it. And there's no fear. And he's a traditional journalist. But there's no fear. And he's really talking about sports. Elliot does hip-hop. And Cam and Mase don't so much talk about hip-hop so much. So And if anybody, Dan Le Batard should be out here saltying and that they're out here doing this and oversaturating his game. But Le Batard is standing on something, and that's a solid business frame, good work, good journalism, and people follow him and they mess with him. And Le Batard is who he is, and he's authentic in that, and people jive with that. But unlike Elliot, who's just some hip hop guy who just talks and feels as though that I should listen to him. But the only reason why he was getting put in everybody's face is because of his label relationships, his affiliation with these large things like BET and MTV and stuff and VH1. So he'll be on there talking about something as if I give a damn. So those days are over. And so in today's day and age where everything is oversaturated, people are gravitating towards authenticity and just being real. And Elliot never gave that to me. So for Cam and Mase to windmill on him the way he did, I felt like it was hell of appropriate, But and I expect nothing less from Elliot. He always came off as a weirdo hater to me, and so this fit right in pocket. So man. So that's my thoughts on that. But what are your thoughts, man, on Cam and Mase? Who do you agree with? Do you agree with Elliot or do you agree with Cam and Mase?
I mostly agree with Cam and Mase, but I will say that, if I'm being reasonable, I understand what Elliot is feeling, because I get it. Like you've worked your way up through the ranks doing something, and you spent a long time fine-tuning your craft, and you went to school, and this thing that you've been doing for such a long time is being now practiced by people who didn't put in nearly that kind of amount of traditional legwork, and they're just kind of coming in and being able to occupy real estate. And it's going to make, I think the normal emotion is for a person to feel some type of way about that. But that's no different than what's been going on in sports for forever. Like, you've been having journalists who've been talking about sports on TV, and they've been reporting on sports news and doing interviews with athletes, and they've been talking about this stuff for a long time. And then, you have an ex-athlete who might retire, or now even current players who decide in their spare time that they're just going to hop on TV and talk sports. Mm-hmm. And they don't have nearly as much skin in the game journalistically as someone who might have went to school, but so be it. That's just kind of, there's a valuation that is placed on a person who is in the position of a practitioner of a particular craft. Mm-hmm. For Cam'ron and Mase, there's a valuation that is placed on the fact that they used to be actual artists rather than talking about the music. Mm-hmm. And I think that there's a valuation placed on these ex-athletes who get into, TV studios and start talking sports. Mm-hmm. Like, there's a firsthand knowledge and experience and an intimacy knowledge of the game that journalists, despite all of their education, simply don't have because they didn't play in the NFL or the NBA.
Right.
So, networks and people who are responsible for curating talent for shows and programming, they're going to take those things into account when they're evaluating and scouting concepts for shows and programming. So you just don't have that. Like, it's a tapestry. Mm-hmm. You provide your journalistic expertise, they provide their firsthand experience, and everybody meets in the middle. And to your point, Cam'ron and Mase aren't really encroaching on any of Elliot Wilson's territory because Elliot Wilson talks music and Cam'ron and Mase do sports.
Right.
So I don't even really know what Elliot Wilson's gripe is, other than he's using Cam'ron and Mase as an example of his larger issue with the fact that new media practitioners are infiltrating media when they don't have nearly as much media or journalism training as he does. And to that point, bro, I would just say get over it, because it happens in every industry. Like, you're just going to have to live with that reality. And I'm inclined to believe that if you were more interesting or more compelling, no one would be encroaching on your territory. Like, I don't know what show Elliot Wilson hosts. Maybe somebody who's like deeply entrenched in hip hop journalism can tell me, but I don't know what Elliot Wilson, what is he on Hot 97? He's on some New York radio station or something. I don't know what he does.
But that's my thing. I don't even know why they kept showing me this guy like as if I should care. Like who is he? Well, he's a hip hop journalist of what? Like I don't. You know what I'm saying? But go ahead, man. But that's my whole point, man.
Yeah, so it's like, that's my thing about it. It always seems to be marginal people who are complaining because, like you said, Levitard is occupying the same real estate as Cam'ron and Mase. They're both talking sports, but Levitard isn't threatened by whatever it is Cam'ron and Mase have going on. Stephen A. Smith is occupying the same real estate as Cam'ron and Mase. They both talk sports. Stephen A. Smith ain't threatened by anything Cam'ron and Mase got going on. Stephen A. Smith was even on their show recently.
Exactly.
So they're not, there's no ominous threat or existential threat taking place there. And it's because those guys have their feet in the sand. They occupy their piece of the real estate. They know who they are. They're good at what they're good at, and they do it, and they're not threatened by somebody else because Cam'ron and Mase are going to provide their own brand of sports commentary in the way that they do it. Chances are likely that if you listen to Cam'ron and Mase and you like the way they do stuff, you probably don't even watch Stephen A. Smith's show, and vice versa. So there might be some cross-pollination because they might collaborate with one another or have a friendly professional relationship, but there isn't like this siphoning of fans and listeners and subscribers from one channel to the next. They both have their own YouTube show. There's probably people who are subscribed to both Cam'ron and Mase and Stephen A. Smith.
Yeah.
And aside from the cross-pollination, there's probably people, like I said, I'm a Cam'ron and Mase fan, so I'm probably not going to be a Stephen A. Smith fan. And vice versa. People who are going to be a Stephen A. Smith fan who aren't going to be a Cam'ron and Mase fan. At the end of the day, there's always going to be pearl clutchers. But those pearl clutchers are going to be pearl clutchers because they're trying to find a way to reconcile their lack of being interesting. If you were better at your job, more interesting, more compelling, you'd have your same level of real estate occupied too. And there'd be nothing for you to complain about because you have your fans and Cam'ron and Mase ain't going to take them away from you. But Elliot Wilson is one of these older guys, and he just feels some type of way about the fact that these new media folks are encroaching on his perceived territory. And my response to that would be, bro, what do you do? Because that directly addresses the issue that he has. Because if I knew what he did, that means he'd be better at it. And if he were better at it, he'd be less threatened by people like Cam and Mase.
Exactly.
It's a full circle type conversation.
Exactly.
So, he can continue to pearl clutch, but I can guarantee him one thing. New media people are here to stay. They're not going anywhere.
Nah.
And you're going to have people who rather listen to what's the name of the linebacker who plays for the Cowboys who has a podcast?
Really Micah Parsons.
Micah Parsons, yeah. There are people who would rather listen to Micah Parsons than Stephen A. Smith or Dan Levitard or Cam'ron and Mase, and vice versa. It's because of the position that they have with respect to the valuation of having been involved directly in industry. And if you're a journalist and you don't have that valuation, be good at what it is that you do and get your place in it that way. But if you can't, I guess you'll just be able to complain about it.
And even with the way the world is set up, like people don't watch like stuff at the same time anymore. So it's like all of this stuff has replay value. So you can just watch this later. Like if somebody's watching Stephen A. Smith in the morning or whatever, when Cam and Mase first dropped their video, so it's like, so what? I'll watch Cam and Mase tonight when I'm eating dinner. And so with today, the way that media is on demand and it's available, you can cross-pollinate as a fan.
Yeah.
So somebody can listen to Dan Levitard, Stephen A. Smith, Cam and Mase, Podcast P, okay, Micah Parsons, all in the same day.
Gilbert Arenas,
all in the same day. Just run it back to back to back because on demand, I have the choice as a listener or viewer to watch this whenever I want. And if I missed the show that aired yesterday, I can watch it today. I mean, there's so many times where there's people that I subscribe to, and they're dropping videos all at the same time about the same type of topics or whatever. And, you know, I got stuff to do. I'm out here doing it. And I was like, I'll get to that later. I missed it later. But the next day, it's like, oh, yeah, that's the video I meant to watch yesterday. I'm going to sit there and watch it. I'm subscribed to these people. If Elliot had value, people would just check in and tune in on whatever the hell he's saying. And then the irony of him talking about these new media people and to be on the new media people's podcast and talking about it. You think Rory and Maul put in the same type of legwork that you put in, kissed as much ass as you did? No. But you're sitting there on that platform, sitting there talking just so you can get yours off. So the hypocrisy in his statement also is just utterly wild. So listen, Mr. Wilson, you need to take your opinions, all right, and go wherever the hell else you be at, you know what I'm saying, and just shove it over there. Because honestly, man, and y'all tell me if I'm wrong, you know, because I'm not really much of a Elliot guy. Every time I see this guy, whether it's on the internet, you know, in an article or something, he's talking about somebody, or I'm watching something that's hip hop centric, and here they go, you know, and he's talking about whatever topic. Like, look, I don't need this, man.
The only time he ever trends for me is when he's complaining about something,
yes,
or when he is waxing poetically about the 80s. That's the only time Elliot Wilson is ever trending, is when he's being an old head or when he's being get off my lawn. So, you know, and I'm not an ageist. Anybody who knows me knows I am firmly opposed to any sort of ageism. I don't think age is contingent on anybody being good or bad at anything. I think it's all about your spirit and how you do what you do. So you can be 50 and still be popping for me. I don't care how old you are. Mm-hmm. But the thing about it is, are you good at it and compelling? Are you interesting? Do you have that real estate occupied?
Right.
And I just never hear about him unless it's him unmuting, complaining about Drake or this other person, or talking about how things used to be in the good old days.
Unbelievable. Kid Rock. Rock Wilson. Unbelievable.
Yeah, I only hear him. It's like whenever they need somebody to unmute on, you know, early era hip hop, 80s and 90s, and how things used to be back in the day, the heyday of the Source Awards and all of this other stuff. You know, that's when I'll see him hit. I don't actively know what he does, and I'm not on my feeds all day. I'm not on Instagram and TikTok all day, but I consume enough media on a daily basis that if you do something, I'm going to be aware of what it is.
Exactly.
So if I can honestly say I don't really know what it is that you're doing, that says you're not really compelling in a fashion that makes you occupy that kind of real estate for people, in my opinion.
Hey, I agree, bro. So that's my opinion too. So yeah, you need to get on out of here. And shout out to Cam'ron and Mase once again for the good laughs, man. These guys are hilarious.
Yeah, like I don't really watch, like I've never watched a single episode of Rory and Mal. I know them from their association with Joe Budden. Agreed. Back when they used to do their thing together. So I couldn't tell you how they do their show, what they talk about. I could not. I have no idea what their content is like, but I still know they exist.
Right.
And I still know what they do.
Right.
So I don't even engage with their content, and I know who they are and what they do. So it's just like Elliot Wilson, bro. Like if you're sitting in your home office still writing op-eds for, you know, whatever hip hop magazine is still in circulation, you know, writing articles for hiphopdx.com, you know, but you know, I just, you know, be better and do better is what I would say. You know, don't complain about new media if you're really not going to make 100% concerted effort to actually be a part of new media, because there's enough real estate for everybody to occupy.
I agree.
Yeah, shouts out to Cam'ron and Mase, man. Doing their thing as always.
Skr.